Welcome everyone to the Meet the iMSM faculty with Martin Widdicks today. We're super excited to have you here. We are going to let people kind of join slowly as you're joining us. We are curious where you're from today. Go ahead and throw in the chat where you're located. We always love to see where everyone's joining from. Our programs are global, so we always usually have people from all over the world, which is really fun to see. So go ahead and throw that in the chat while we're getting set up here. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Kate Deering. I am a coordinator within Geese Online Programs. I've been here for a few years, we're super excited to have you here. This is a great first step to learn a little bit about our programs. We're very excited to have one of our faculty members here today. This is only the second time we've hosted an event like this with one of our faculty members, so we're very excited. So we're just going to take the next 45 minutes or so to meet our professor. We're going to talk about the program and hopefully answer a lot of your questions that you have. Okay, so we're seeing San Francisco, San Diego, Urbana. Oh, that's you. Champaign. Excellent. Well, I'm in Champaign, and so you're across town, Professor Widdicks. So that's excellent. We've got California, Indonesia. So we've got a good representation of domestic and a couple of international students. So welcome. My colleague, Marcus Phillips, will be here as well. He's going to be answering questions in the chat. Though I will say, if you have specific questions about the program, if you can try to put those in the Q&A feature, it's just a little bit easier to process those questions and everybody can see the answers there, and then we don't have to kind of hunt for those questions through the chat. So we'll save the chat for fun comments and getting to know each other there. You also may have noticed this QR code on the screen. So at any point during our presentation, you can scan this code at the beginning or the end, and we will reach out to you and connect with you to have our conversation. So let's just talk a little bit about our agenda today. We are going to finally meet Professor Widdicks here in the next slide. I'm going to go through a little bit of a program overview today. We'll talk about curriculum and content, and we're going to get a lot of insight from our guest. We will cover the application process, and then we will also have plenty of time for Q&A, as well as answer some of those questions that you submitted with your registration. Okay, so Professor Martin Widdicks, there is, as you can see, a lot of credentials on this screen. So I think I'm really excited to have you here, but I think I'm going to let you tell us a little bit of your story and your path to Geese, and maybe tell us a little bit about your teaching style, any research that you've done, and of course, what your current course that you teach in the iMSM program is. So let's get to know Professor Widdicks.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. Very glad to have you all here and to meet you. Bit of background: I was born in the UK. I'm from a city called Nottingham, which is famous largely for fictional, maybe not fictional character called Robin Hood. And I think it's soccer team, which is my team, Nottingham Forest, who probably very few of you have heard of. I studied both my undergraduate and PhD at the University of Manchester, also in the UK. And in 2005, I came here as a visitor, supposedly for 1 year. Then I stayed for a couple of years then, and then in 2011, I moved back here, and I've been at Geese for the last 12 years. In terms of what I do at Geese, obviously I teach on our iMSM program. I also am heavily involved in our residential graduate program, so I'm also director of our MS Finance program. So if you have any questions about the difference between our online and residential programs, I'm sort of heavily involved in both of them. That's my path to Geese. Teaching style, what did I write down? I have some notes that I wrote down. I suppose my philosophy is in learning by doing. My students complain a little bit that I always give them too much work to do. But I think, it's everyone can sit down, read a book, read some slides and think they know it. The only way we really learn something deeply is by doing it. And so in all of my classes, whether it's my online class, which is an intro to finance, or some of the more advanced classes I teach in like complex derivative securities, we only really learn it if we do it, we practice it, we do some real world examples, we test ourselves and see if we can answer the questions, do the calculations, understand the theory ourselves. So in all the classes I teach, it's very hands-on, try and do a lot of real world examples, try and link the theories that we're learning to what's happening in the real world right now, do some cases, do some real stuff. Other thing is, what else? My teaching style. I'd like to get students engaged. One of the best things I think about the teaching online is in the live sessions, there's a large number of students. I found everyone's really active in the chat, asking questions. And so it's really great to have other people talking in class other than myself, other people making good points. So I encourage as much interaction as possible in my classes. Research, less active in research lately as I have a lot of other things going on. My research historically was all sort of in the field of mathematical finance. So I did some work on derivative pricing, techniques for valuing complex securities. I did some work on employee executive compensation, figuring out those kind of contracts, stuff like that. So, it tends to be in the derivatives area, but I have interest in all different areas of finance. The current course I teach, which is relevant to you, is called Introduction to Finance, which is sort of looking at the fundamental ideas in finance, getting a grounding in how we can use finance to make corporate decisions, why finance is important in everybody's role, whether you're in marketing or in accounting or in finance, why you would want to know finance theory. Outside of the online class, I teach, as you probably guessed from my research, I teach classes in derivatives, but also in statistics. I've taught intro to finance classes to financial engineers, finance students, and now iMSM students. Okay. I don't want to just be, as I say, I want other people to ask questions, so I'll stop there, sort of with my background.
That was a perfect introduction. I love that you talked a little bit about how interactive your classes are, and we're going to definitely touch a little bit more on that and get maybe a little bit more in depth, like what your live classes, how they're structured and what those look like. But let's just jump in and talk a little bit about Geese Online as a whole, the Geese Business Online programs. For those that are new here, I did want to just share a little bit about the flexibility, the stackability, and the fact that we're online by design here at Geese Business. That first point being flexible, that just means that we have no travel requirements. We are completely online, including all your course and your group work. It's really paced to fit your needs. All of our students in our programs are full-time working professionals, and so they're fitting this in with all the rest of their busy life. And so you get to pace and create your own degree plan and either take 1 or 2 courses at a time. So it's really flexible. We're also flexible in how we bill our tuition. We have a pay-as-you-go tuition model, so you just pay for each course that you're registered in. So, and not to mention the iMSM, and we'll touch on this, it's priced very affordable as well. So, Geese Business is stackable. So all of our credentials and online programs, they stack and they work together. So you can take a single course for upskilling, or you can stack that course into a graduate certificate for credentialing. And then we recently launched several graduate certificates, and these are all stackable as well into our iDegree master's degree programs. This unique stackability really allows you the option to test drive a course. If you're not quite ready to dive in, if you enjoy that experience, you can decide that you're ready for the full degree program and apply to one of those. And then lastly, online by design. This just means that this program was not adapted to be in this format. Or Geese specifically back in 2016, designed this program to be delivered to thousands of learners worldwide. So we created highly engaging content. We have fabulous faculty that delivers that information with real world examples and projects to kind of pull through all of that information. So again, it was intentionally designed to have lots of interactions with your university and your faculty members, fellow students, and include a lot of collaboration during your degree. I guess, Professor Widdicks, can you speak a little bit about the quality of like an online degree compared to a residential degree? I think that's sometimes a common question, like, you know, it's a virtual or an online program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so obviously I teach in both programs. I would say, you know, it's obviously not exactly the same experience for all people involved. I was talking to Kate before we started, and one of the big differences I find is that a lot of the online students have work experience or are working while in their classes, while a lot of our in-person students have come straight from undergraduate degree and maybe have less work experience. So what it means is the style of class is slightly different. In my online classes, I can assume that the students have real world experience, or at least are thinking of the real world experience and can relate what we're doing in class to the real world. Whereas some of my in-person students, I have to convince them, no, you know, the theory is all very interesting now. How would you apply it in the real world? How can you think a little bit about the real world? But in terms of the quality, I mean, the faculty members who teach in our in-person classes are the same who are teaching you online. You know, a lot of the classes are the same. I mean, there's a Fin 500 Intro to Finance on the in-person Masters in Management and also on the online one. So you're going to get very similar experience in terms of content, even if the way in which you learn the content is not always exactly the same. Does that answer your question?
That's perfect. Thank you. So we talked a little bit about the stackability of Geese online programs. This next slide just kind of is a great visual for all the different credentials that we have here that are offered at Geese. The box on the right is all of those boxes are kind of an example of if you took each step, what could build upon the next. But keep in mind that you don't have to do all of these steps. You don't have to do them in a certain order either. So you could start with that smallest box, which is a free online course over at on the Coursera platform. These are foundational building blocks within our Geese online courses. So they give you specific foundational knowledge in a specific skill area. You could then take a 4-credit course at Illinois, which combines 2 of those Coursera MOOCs and also adds in the Illinois or the high engagement component to that non-degree course. If you combine 3 or 12 credit hours of Illinois courses, you could earn a graduate certificate, which is that third kind of cube on the right. These are, we currently have, I believe, 5 graduate certificates that we offer that are all stackable into our iDegree. So another aspect of the stackability within Geese. And in fact, the iMSM was recently announced that we also can stack this entire iMSM degree into your MBA degree. So just another level of stackability. So lots of options, you know, within Geese to kind of meet you wherever you're at in your learner journey. Excuse me. So all of these possibilities are included, and you can just take whatever you can handle at that time and continue to add on as you go. So the Master of Science in Management, I just wanted to give you some quick facts on the degree. It comes in at just around $11,500. That's going to be the total cost. And again, we have a pay-as-you-go model. So you only pay for the course that you're registered in. There's no lump sum payment. There's payment plans. There's lots of options for payment. It does take 12 to 24 months, and you get to pace, you know, pace your degree plan, I guess, and create that plan yourself. You can take one course or two, depending on what your schedule looks like. And then we have 4 start dates: January, March, August, and October. So by the numbers, you can find some stats about our students on these slides. And one thing I wanted to point out is there is no work experience requirement to apply for the MSM program. That may be surprising when you look at this slide, because you can see the average age of our students is 34 with 9.5 years of work experience. So that's kind of what our student group looks like within the MSM program currently. I guess, you know, Professor Widdicks, with that in mind, can you maybe describe a little bit about what a successful student has looked like in your MSM, your course from your vantage point, I guess, or what kind of career backgrounds have you seen in your course?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've seen from the students I've interacted with, there's a lot of career backgrounds. Obviously, the students who are in the finance field are quite prominent in the classes because they have a lot of questions to ask or a lot of things to contribute. But I have people from the education sector, I have people in marketing, I have a couple of people, I think, who are just out of undergraduate degrees themselves, just launching their careers. So a wide range of students in the class. In terms of who's been most successful, I mean, I think it's not necessarily the background, it's more the attitude. I noticed someone in the chat was asking about, you know, if I'm an engineer, is it useful to me? I mean, I'm biased. I think, you know, whatever field you're in, some financial knowledge is always important. And I think the key to being successful on the online classes is to take the classes seriously, be organized, and be engaged. So you're obviously all very busy. It's tempting to think, oh, you know, I'll do this later. I won't come to the live sessions. I'll maybe watch a recording, or, you know, I'll do the homework the night before because I'm busy. And you know, the classes are very intense. They're, you know, the high engagement portions are only 8 weeks long. If you don't have, you're not organized when you go in, you haven't set aside time each week to do the classes, then it can be a challenge. But if you're not like that, you take it seriously. You set aside a few hours a week for each of your classes, you get engaged with your professors and with the other students in the class, then I think everyone's capable of being successful. But you know, it can be a lot of work. So as I said, I like to set a lot of homework. So my class, you know, expect each week you can do some homework. You're going to think about the topics for the next week. And if you do that, then you're going to get an enormous amount out of my class and presumably all your other classes as well. So yeah, there's no natural background for the iMSM. Anyone who's committed, who wants to learn things, wants to improve their, you know, career path in the future, they can all be successful on this program.
That's a great point. I know sometimes in our interviews we're talking and prospective students want to know, like, what does a successful student look like? And I always say, you know, we're looking for those that are going to engage. We don't want any wallflowers in this virtual environment. You know, it's like, we need engagement and collaboration and people that are excited about that, which I think our students are. So
yeah, you have to be curious about the subject, right? You know, you've got to want to be successful, you've got to really, you know, get into the class, think about the issues which are coming up, try and link it to what you're doing in your daily lives, and then I think you'll do well in the program.
And I think our population plays into that well, being full-time working professionals.
Yeah,
I think they're a little bit more dialed in on where they're going, what their goals are, and how this degree can help them reach those goals. So, so that's great feedback. This slide actually just kind of describes a little bit about who would benefit from a management degree. This degree is obviously going to give you essential leadership and management skills for you to be able to advance your career. It's also designed for working professionals, as all of our online degrees are, but the MSM is for those that are entering the workforce, or as you can see with our professional work experience of, you know, within this program, those that have many years of technical experience that are looking to add on and pivot in their career to add on that leadership and management skill set. So it's kind of a cool dynamic, I think, with those two populations. So just a little bit about the MSM curriculum and content. So you'll take 6 courses that are your core required courses in business fundamentals. So you can see those in that box on the left-hand side. And then you will complete 12 credit hours of electives. So you have a couple choices there. We have a couple or a few predetermined tracks. Those are just suggested. You can also build your own elective track as well. Professor Widdicks, where does your course fit into this picture?
I believe you asked me these hard questions. I believe it's in the core curriculum. So I think everybody in the iMSM has to take my intro to finance. I think it's within the financial management business fundamental.
Yep.
Did I answer that correctly?
You're correct. Can you give an overview of like how you structure your course?
Sure, Mike. So I think like all of these core curriculum courses, it's going to be an 8-week class. It's going to have 8 different modules, 1 for each week. There is a MOOC component, so that's going to be within Coursera. So each week you'll be expected to complete the Coursera part, and then I'll be in charge of the high engagement part. So we'll have an assignment typically each week, and we'll have a live session component where I talk through in a lot more detail some of the issues that have come up either in the assignment or what I think will be relevant to the real world or what I think is most important in terms of that week's topics. Okay, and then at the end we'll have a final, and within the assignments that we do, some of them will be in teams, so you have a chance to work with other students on the class, and others will be in person, so you make sure you develop the important skills that you need to do well in your finance class.
I see and we'll probably get to this in a minute, but
Sure.
what's your average class size in your live classes?
In the live sessions, so I run when I taught the class in the fall, I had 2 live sessions. The first one was on a Wednesday evening. This was the most popular one. So I was having, somewhere between 75 and 100 students who were logging into that live session and engaging. The one on Thursday mornings was a little less well attended. It was probably like 35 to 40 students attending in that class. So it depends on the time of day in which of the live sessions you're in, how many students would be in the live session.
Okay. And for those that are joining, our live sessions are offered at a couple different times per class. So, like Professor Widdicks is offering it twice, and it'll sometimes be in a morning option as well as an afternoon or an evening option. And that really is so that everybody has a chance to join at a time that works for them, especially for our global students that might be in a different time zone. And then it also is recorded. So you can always watch the recording, though we always encourage everybody to attend those live classes because that's where the real learning happens. You're interacting with your fellow students and collaborating. So that's always a great idea to try your best to attend those live classes. So Professor Widdicks did comment on the Coursera component. So I did want to give you an overview of what our courses, like what makes up our courses. And the first part is on Coursera. Coursera is a large educational platform that provides the foundational material in our course, kind of like your textbook in the course. It's made up of pre-recorded videos, some quizzes, some reading assignments. It's a completion grade for the course. And these are called massive online open courses. So typically there's 2 of these within each Illinois 4 credit hour course. If you've taken one of these in the past, great, and you earned your certificate, we will recognize that progress and carry that over once you're admitted, and you won't have to necessarily repeat that portion of the course, though I'm sure Professor Widdicks would say you're going to want to review that and keep up with that as well, even if you did it in the past, because you'll be coordinating your high engagement component along with that material. The other portion of a typical course is the high engagement component, and it includes all of these facets or components, I guess, that are on your screen. And we just kind of touched a little bit on those, but there's going to be that 1 90-minute live class each week. You will have group projects where you'll be in a group with 4 to 5 other students working on a project. You'll be meeting with them outside of your live classes and making sure that that project meets your deadline. And then you have tests and assignments. Can you give us an example of just like what a group project would look like in one of your classes?
Sure. So in my class, the group projects, I've just been working on one of them now. The group projects in Intro to Finance would typically be a more open-ended case than your other assignments. So the very last assignment actually in my class is going to be what is called a capital budgeting decision, which sounds incredibly boring, but it's not. It's actually a Target case. So Target, which is a big US retailer, those of you in the US will know them well. They have to decide between which projects to undertake. So do they expand stores in one area or another one? Do they refit other stores? And your challenge in this project is to figure out, if you were Target, which of these projects you would invest in, right? So it's a perfect case for groups because you can argue, you can discuss what you would do, you can use your own knowledge about budgeting decisions maybe you've made at work or expansion decisions you've made. And so the team sort of has to work together to come up with your recommendations to the board. And then in our live session that week, then we all get to discuss what we would have done. And we kind of end the session by you voting on which of the 5 projects you would do. And I, of course, have the information. I know exactly what Target did. So in the last 5 minutes, we argue about all the bad decisions they made or good decisions they made and whether or not they agreed with the students. So that's more like what our group work would look like. It's something where it really is important to be in a group and discuss ideas rather than just putting you together to do some of the more mechanical type exercises.
Okay. How are students evaluated in your class? Do you just have, you mentioned a final. Is there any other?
Oh, so in terms of assessment, so we have weekly assignments. So there are, I think, 7 individual, I'm getting, those of you who take my class will pull me up on there. I think there are 7 individual assignments and 2 team assignments. They're weighted pretty highly. And then the final exam, I think, is worth 20 to 25% of your final score. So a lot of the assessment is the weekly work that you're doing, sort of in the whole ethos of the program. You know, you're working towards this. A lot of you have substantial experience. It's how you put the answer into practice rather than how well you perform in an exam. But, you know, to make sure you've really understood the knowledge, then I do put a final test at the end just to make sure that under a bit of time pressure, you're able to reproduce most of the key ideas from the class.
Okay. A common question we get is how are tests delivered in an online environment? Can you?
Okay, so the way my test works is, do you want me to ask that question? Is that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. The way my test works is you would do it through our learning system called Canvas. So all of our classes, you would have access to the Canvas site. That's where you can download all the assignment questions. That's where if you've foolishly missed one of my live sessions, you can rewatch the live session. You can check the deadlines and things like that. We also have the ability to put tests on there. So you would log in, and then as soon as you click start the test, you have, I think, 3 hours for my test to complete all the questions. So make sure you're sitting somewhere away from your children or away from distractions and sit down and start the test. The questions appear on your screen. Some of them you may have to upload a file like a spreadsheet, other ones a multiple choice perhaps, and you type in the answer. So, you know, and you don't have to all do it at the same time. So you typically have a weekend to do it. So between Friday and Monday, you need to find a 3-hour period where you can feel confident about completing the exam.
Cool. I know that's, thank you for answering that. I know we get that question a lot, and I haven't taken one of the courses, so that's super helpful.
Yeah.
I did want to touch on a little bit about our nationwide and worldwide reach here within Geese Online. And this slide actually represents Geese as a whole. And the entire program is made up of over 6,000 online students, and that number could be a little off today. But and then we have over 3,000 within our alumni network. All 50 states are represented through our iDegree programs. And we have over 99 countries represented. For the iMSM specifically, we have about 1/3 of our students are international and join us from all over the world. And we have 44 states represented as well as 67 countries. So you'll be in classes with people from all over the world. It's truly amazing to be able to get to know them and learn from just their different backgrounds and different education. So the last couple slides just talk a little bit about networking in our program. And I know that this is a common question that we get from prospective students, like how are we connecting within this virtual environment? And this slide just has a couple examples. We have some Geese-led opportunities that you can take part in, like iConnects, which are these are usually held around the US. They're designed to help expand your network. Usually we'll have some kind of keynote speaker. You can meet some of our staff members and our leadership team will be present. We also have immersions, which are domestic and international opportunities to work on a project with a group with different stakeholders in a specific community. And so we do these virtually. We also have them in person. I just got back from one in Houston, and they had a great experience where the final day they presented their projects to ExxonMobil, and so it was a really cool last day where they kind of had a winner, and just everybody was so excited, a little stressed, but they had a great time. So those are definitely available to you. And then iConverge. iConverge is our kickoff event every year in the fall. I'm sure you attended, correct, Professor Widdicks? Have you been to?
I have not yet.
You haven't? Oh, you gotta come.
I know, last semester was my first online teaching, so I've not had the joy of the iConverge yet. But next one, I will be there.
Hopefully you'll be there this year. So,
yes.
But this is where we invite all of our faculty members, leadership team is there. We have professional development, so we'll have some speakers. There's lots of fun events at night. You can go to a tailgate and a football game. Great networking opportunity. And then there's student-led opportunities. Upon admission, you'll have access to something called Workplace, which is a social media group just for our students. Just an excellent resource for degree planning, job searching. Study groups are formed there. Something that happens quite often is student-led meetups, where our students will say, hey, I'm Kate, I live in Champaign, and is there anybody that's in the program that lives close to me? And then they kind of have this homegrown network that they create, and they meet at a restaurant or a coffee shop and do all kinds of things together. So that does happen quite frequently in our program. And then lastly, just the group work. I think I've talked to a lot of students that really just get to know each other through some of the group projects that they have in every class. You'll find that you may have some of the same people in your groups, though I will say there is a group preference form that you fill out before every 8-week term course. And so we really try to pay attention to your time zone, your background, and we really do our best to create diverse groups, but you may have some of the same people every once in a while in those groups. So those are just a few opportunities, but there's so many networking opportunities within our program. The next couple slides are just pictures of, if I can get my computer to work here. Here's a picture from iConverge last year. As you can see, there was tons of people there. We actually held it in the State Farm Center, which was really cool. We had over 500 students attend that. Student-led meetups. So these were just a few pictures. That middle picture is from Columbia. So these actually do happen internationally as well. But we have some pretty strong groups in San Diego, Houston, Texas, DC, Boston area. So I'm sure you'll be able to find one somewhat close to you. So upon admission, you will have access to our student academic success team. So once you start your first course, this is another resource that I just wanted to touch on, that they will help. They are there to help you pair specific courses, work on your degree plan. You can schedule office hours with them, one-on-one appointments. This is the team that will really guide you through your coursework. And then I was just thinking one other great resource is faculty office hours that I think we kind of missed talking about. Can you tell us a little bit about what your faculty office hours look like? I know when I talk with students, they said some of them are like attend all of the office hours because they just think they're such a great resource that the faculty members offer.
Sure. So it's a bit of a shock moving to online teaching from in person. So in person, we put on these office hours. I'm sure many of you as undergraduates very rarely went to see faculty members in office hours. So online office hours work very differently. So they're almost like an extra live session or extra sort of mini tutorial on top of the regular live sessions. So typically have 20 or 30 students come to each one. I connect my tablet, I give some help sometimes to some of the assignments, I answer questions that have come out of the live sessions or the MOOCs. Sometimes students actually stay in my office hours after I leave to talk with themselves and try and figure out answers to problems. So it's very interactive. It's another chance for you to talk to your professors, get a little bit of help maybe on some challenging homework questions or clarify some things that you're not quite sure from studying the MOOCs or attending the live session that week. I think it sort of leads to maybe some fears you may have about online classes and stuff like that. Those of you who took online classes sort of were forced to do so during the pandemic and things like that. Sometimes, there wasn't much interaction, like it felt sort of less interesting maybe than being in person. That is not the case on sort of our Geese online programs. So I was amazed. My first live session, like the chat was, and there were comments sort of every minute or so. There were people asking questions. They were having mini discussions themselves. Say office hours have really engaged lots of people asking questions. So it's I think it's a pretty cool experience. So because all the students are online, they're all engaged in the process, they're very interactive. They're actually a lot of fun to teach. And I hope they're a lot of fun to study from. And that sort of comes over to the office hours too. Lots of great questions, lots of chances for you to interact with other students and interact with your professors.
Yeah, it's just a great resource.
Yeah.
And we have the best faculty. Like, I think when students ask us, like, are we ever going to, how do we meet our professor? Like, you guys are so approachable and always willing to help. And just the fact that you have, a couple office hours each week. So that's really good to hear. And I know the students love hanging out in those, even if they don't have questions, they learn a lot from everybody else's.
I have students who showed up to all like every week, and I don't think they ever asked a question. They just sort of sat there with their videos on, just nodding along. So yeah, come along, just just listen to everyone else.
They're learning too, right?
Yeah.
So, well, hopefully you're excited about the MSM degree. These are the application requirements. We do require a resume. We do require a bachelor's degree. And if you're an international student, we would require, actually for everybody, we require unofficial transcripts for your application. If you're an international student, make sure that you have your mark sheets as well as course descriptions, grades, and then also your certificate of degree. There's a personal statement that we require. The prompt is within the application. We're just going to ask you a little bit about your personal background, your experiences that have influenced you to pursue your degree, and why you feel like you're a great fit for Geese online programs. We want to make sure that your goals match up with the program and that it's a great fit for you. This is also your chance to shine. I mean, this is your chance to teach us a little bit about you that your resume might not actually be able to convey. So 2 letters of recommendation are required. These are super simple. Just need your name and email of your recommender, and then you can actually submit your application just with those 2 things. We will take care of emailing them a form to fill out. Just really brief, not a huge time commitment for your recommender. Just a few questions to rate you on, and then there's a couple open-ended paragraph questions. If you're an international student, we do require a TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo score. or a waiver essay. So if there's any type of question here, please reach out to us at geeseonline@illinois.edu. We can walk you through this. Sometimes it can be a little confusing whether or not you earned an exemption or not. And we have a lot of options to help you in that process. No GRE or GMAT, that's totally not necessary for application. And we do have a couple, actually one scholarship opportunity in partnership with Coursera that I wanted to mention. This scholarship would reimburse 70% of your tuition. It's need and diversity based, and we're really focusing on making our programs more accessible and in alignment with, this is in alignment with our goals of impacting our global community of students as well. That prompt is also within the application. If you are trying to apply for a scholarship, make sure you apply by that priority 1 or priority 2 deadline, so May 4th or June 1st. And then lastly, one other option, if perhaps your GPA is not, we do require your GPA to be 3.0 or higher. If you're a little bit below that, or perhaps you're a little bit lacking in your work experience, something like that, we do have the performance-based admissions track. And that is for students who don't quite meet those minimum requirements, or perhaps you just want to try out the academic rigor of the program. And what this is that you'll go through the same application process, but if admitted, you'll be admitted as a non-degree student, and you'll take 3 courses, and you'll have to earn a B or better in at least 2 of the 3 and an overall GPA of 3.0, and then we'll evaluate your grades and admit you into the degree program if you meet those. So just an excellent opportunity to offer a lot of students who might not normally be admitted just based on their initial application. Just a couple more things on application review. Once you submit your application, give us 1 to 2 weeks and we'll turn that back around, and you'll hear back from us with either a missing materials email, an invitation to interview, or a decision. So we do turn our applications around pretty quickly. And this is just a couple advantages of applying early. Submit by May 4th for your maximum benefits. And those are all listed here. That would be for your fall application to start in August or October. So as we wrap up, I know that was a lot of information, and we hope that you learned a little bit more about Professor Widdicks as well and how he teaches his courses. I'm so thankful that you've been able to explain a lot of these things, and even I, sometimes until you hear it from, a faculty member, so that it really makes sense. But I guess just to close out, what do you really love about teaching at Geese?
That was the hardest question you set me up for. I mean, I think it's a great experience when you're trying to explain something very difficult, and you see the students are frustrated, and then there's a point at which someone understands it. So I even in my live sessions, I can see someone's videos on, and you can see them suddenly like nod their head. They've been trying really hard for 20 minutes to understand a relatively difficult concept, and when they understand it, it's a great feeling. And so I really like, to make people happy like that and have them really understand something challenging. And, also the more you teach the role, the more you realize that you're learning yourself. So, I learned every time I teach a class. Some classes I've taught, 12 or 13 times. Every time I teach a class, I learn something new. I learn something back from students who ask very clever questions, or students who've had a different experience from me and can link what I'm teaching to some different things they've had. And this is, coming back to the iMSM class with, the typical type of student in the class. They can say, oh, I actually have this capital budgeting case. I actually had to make this decision last week, and this is how we did it. And it was completely different from what you showed, or we had some of the same problems. And I can learn for next time I teach it, to use this example and learn from the students, as well as sort of imparting what knowledge I have. So I find it, it's a lot of fun, and it's also challenging, and I get to learn at the same time.
Any tips or advice for prospective students looking at the program?
Yeah, I mean, I hope this is the right. I mean, I think, remember, this is still a serious undertaking. you really are getting a degree out of this. So it's the same degree you would get in person. So it's a really good qualification you're getting, but it means you also have to put in the work. And if you have not studied while working before, it's really important that you're organized and that you're engaged. So I think, some homeworks can be really difficult and really frustrating. And, you've set aside an hour in the evening and it's taking you 3 hours and you want to get frustrated. That's part of learning, right? Some things will be easy to you. Some things will be difficult. Someone's asking, what's the most difficult class? It depends, right? If you've done finance before and you're reasonably numerate, you might find my class really easy, but you might really struggle in like an organizational behavior class, which your colleagues or your teammates may find very straightforward. So it's very different. So some parts of learning will be frustrating. It may take you a few hours or a few days or a few weeks to understand concepts, but that's why you're studying, right? You're studying to, learn these things better and make yourself more knowledgeable in the future. So do take it seriously. Do make sure you have enough time to do the homeworks properly, enough time to attend all the live sessions, enough time to engage with your groups. So, because you're getting really high quality qualification from a great business school, you got to put in the work as well. Make sure you're organized, make sure you're willing to put all the effort in. And if you put the effort in, you're going to get enormous amounts out of both your fellow students and also the faculty and other experiences you get from the program.
That's great advice. If anybody has any questions, we are going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes, but if you have any last minute questions, I see one. How does the iMSM differ from the IMBA? So 6 of the core courses within the MSM are actually the same courses as the IMBA. So you will be in live classes with the MBA students. Your group work will be, with MSM students, but the MSM really incorporates strategic leadership and management, that portion of the MBA. And so you're gonna really learn how to lead a team and manage a team. The MBA is going to go much more in depth to all of the skills needed to run a business. It's going to be looking at, kind of taking that deep dive into the theory behind a lot of those concepts. Do you have anything to add to that, Professor Widdicks?
No, I think that was, it's sort of, you're getting like the first taste, really. You're getting all the important fundamentals in order to improve it, improve your business careers. And of course, the MBA being there a bit longer is going to go into depth in areas. And I think, so the MBA on top gives you a little bit more choice in terms of where you can go at the next stage, right? So I think half of the iMSM are these required parts to get your basis built up. And then you have a little bit extra on top, and then the MBA goes into a bit more detail. But the stackability makes it great, right? So you can keep going if you want to.
Yeah, and I always say, like, the MSM, I think you can benefit in any type of career to be a great leader and be able to manage people. So I think it's applicable to a lot of different backgrounds, and you kind of touched on that earlier as well. So great questions. If anybody else has any other questions, we are here at Geese Online at illinois.edu. I know we had that QR code up there for a little bit if you want to reach out to us, but I'm so thankful that everyone was here asking great questions. Professor Widdicks, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. This was such a great session. I hope you enjoyed being here, and we really appreciate it. And thank you to Marcus and Amy in the chat as well for being here. And I hope everyone has a good evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you're located. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everyone.